Hey guys, welcome. Glad that you are here. My name is Jason Kokenzie, and I am here to hopefully help make 2018 a financial success for you. I did a five-series video series back in December of 2018 to help you change and what I said dominate your finances in 2018, focusing on the concept of residual income. And I gave several different ways to dominate your residual income, some different out of the box thinking, which most people don't think of because they're fallen to the traditional education as far as finances are concerned. So I'll probably drop the video series that I did in below the comments here somewhere so that you can go back and watch those. But one of the things that we did talk about was real estate. And so what I'm going to teach you today is how to invest in real estate even though you think you might not be able to invest in real estate. And that being, how can you get 5 real estate investments or more in the next 5 years? That's right, 5. Anybody on here, at least the large majority on here, I shouldn't say anybody, but the large majority of you should be able to get 5 real estate investment properties on here within the next 5 years or more, 5 or more properties in the next 5 years. And here's a cool thing, all for just 3.5% down. That's right, 3.5% down. So that's what we're going to talk about. But let's talk a couple concepts just to help you understand. So you know where I'm coming from. I like residual income. And most of you work for something called linear income. Linear income is where you trade time for money. You go to work, you get paid. You don't go to work, you don't get paid. So there is never what we call time freedom, and very rarely is there any financial freedom. Linear income means you have to go do something over and over and over and over. It's not what I'm talking about. And those five video series were all focused on the concept of residual income. What is residual income? Residual income is the concept of you go to work once, but you continue to get paid for the work that you do. So for instance, there's things I did 7 years ago that I'm still getting paid for today. And so my life has changed so much that, as you can see, I'm actually in my motorhome right now. Why am I in my motorhome? Because I am traveling all across the country with my family. I have a beautiful, lovely wife and 4 children, and we decided we have no responsibilities. Why don't we go take my kids to where they have been reading in their books? We homeschool, obviously, and go show them those things. Not just tell them about it, but actually go show. So we have been all over the country to places such as Boston, the Freedom Trail. We've got them to take up a new Freedom Tower in New York City. We've been able to take them to the Capitol at Washington, D.C. We've been able to take them to a bunch of different places, all because of this wonderful thing called residual income. And so in the videos, I talked about several different things. One of those things I talked about was liabilities and assets. And this is where housing becomes a big problem, because for the longest time, people have been told that your house is your biggest asset, but frankly, it is your biggest liability. Let me help you explain, help you understand, excuse me. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. So if I go to buy a home, then here's the thing. If it's my home and I'm living it, most likely it's a liability because it's not putting my money in my pocket. Some people might say, well, wait a minute here. As soon as I bought my home, my house was actually valued at even higher than what I paid for. So therefore, I am making money. The answer to that is no, you are not. That money is not putting any money in your pocket until at that point you sell it. And who knows at the time you sell the home, if the market's going to stay the same way, you may lose, if you will, your shirt on the home. So an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. So I'm going to help hopefully everybody understand how you make your home an asset, how you get 5 investments in the next 5 years or more, and how you can do it all for 3.5% FHA loan. Okay? Let me tell you, young people specifically who are thinking about getting their first home, can I help you by saying don't do that yet until you listen to this video? Okay? Until you listen to this video. I wish I was told this when I first got married and was looking towards my first home, because I would have totally changed everything I did in order to accomplish what you can in this video. Don't buy into the trap that your home is your biggest asset. It is not. but learn how to make residual income right out the gate so that you can have time and financial freedom way sooner than later. Think about that. Now, can you do me a favor before we jump in this? If you'll do me a favor and like and share this video for me. If you've learned something, can you share this video, tag to somebody, maybe somebody else you know needs to learn, or maybe they're currently in the process of looking at homes. Share this video, tag their name in it, help them out, help them to think differently, help them to learn to invest their money wisely, okay? If you do me a favor and you watch this video, can you like and then just comment that you watched it? And if you watch this on replay, can you put the number 7 down below? And obviously, I'd also love for you to comment if you have questions about this. How you can do this, what does it look like, all that kind of stuff like that. Do me a favor, and if you don't mind doing that for me, I would be grateful for that, okay? So, how do you, or virtually anybody, buy investment property for 3.5% down? Well, it's a wonderful thing that we call, and by the way, you'll see my whiteboard here right now, it's a wonderful thing that we call house hacking, okay? House hacking, all right? Now, what is house hacking? Let me see if I can get this over here so that you can all see this whole thing here. All right, just one second here. I don't know why this is not working the way I want it to. Okay, I'm going to stop this real quick and then maybe come back on here real quick. So if you'll just do me a favor here. You know how technology goes, right? It doesn't always work the way that you want it to work. So let's see if I can get this back up here real quick. All right. Is it working here? There we go. This wonderful thing is called house hacking. And this basically means virtually anybody there, as long as you probably have around a 650 or higher. Obviously, the higher you have, the credit score, the better it's going to be. But how you can buy 5 investment properties in the next 5 years or more, investment properties, okay? So this is called house hacking. So I'm going to draw some pictures here for you and hopefully you'll learn. So let's say you want to buy a home. Okay, now I'm not an artist, so you're just gonna have to deal with this. Let's say you want to buy a house. In the typical world, you can buy a house, a single family home, and move into it for 3.5% FHA, which is pretty cool. But if we change our whole way of thinking, we can not only buy this home, but we can also make it an investment property. This is how house hacking comes into play. What if I told you 1 year later, you could actually buy a second home for 3.5% FHA and still own your first home? That's right. And by the way, not only can you do this, it is 100% legal. You're saying, how in the world do you do that? Well, very simple. Let's say you come into your first home and you live in it. At 1 year, you can get a renter in the first home with a 1 year contract and go ahead and move over to the second home for 3.5% FHA and now start living in the second home. And what did you just do? In the course of 1 year's time, you just bought your first investment property. But guess what? 1 year later, you can do the same thing. You can go over here, you can rent this out, and now you can occupy this third home. And in the course of 2 years, you have 2 rental homes and your own personal home. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? And you can do this every single year, on the year, year after 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 year, and get investment property year after year after year. Now, what are the positives? You're getting a lot of investment property. What are the negatives? You have to move every single year. But especially if you're newly married, or maybe you're single, or maybe you are empty nesters, this might be one of the best things that you can do for yourself. because the move should be simpler because there's not a lot more junk in your home that you probably honestly don't need anyway. And if you're planning to do this year after year, you're probably going to minimize the things that you're going to keep in your home anyway, knowing that you're going to make long-term investments. So yes, there are positives, and yes, there are negatives. Again, this is called house hacking. But what if I could make this even sweeter for you and still be obviously 100% illegal, 100% legal, let me say that again, but actually have everybody else pay for your mortgage, even on the home that you live in currently. See, in this situation, on this last home, until you go the next year, for 1 year, you're going to have to pay the mortgage on every single one of them, okay? So here's the thing. What if you are able to do this where you can have somebody else pay for your mortgage year after year? Well, guess what? You can. How is that? Well, here again, let me help you think long-term as far as investment's concerned instead of just a typical single-family home. And how does that work? What if I told you that under the exact same rules, you could buy something called a multiplex, okay? A multiplex. Specifically, a duplex, okay? A triplex, or a fourplex, okay? Now, here's the thing. This is how this whole thing works. A duplex means there's 2 units, triplex means there's 3 units, and a fourplex means there are 4 units. But guess what? By law, as long as you purchase a fourplex or lower, that also includes a single-family home, you can do this for 3.5% FHA. I think you probably can already understand where I'm going with this. But if not, let me explain just a little bit better, okay? How does this work? Well, it's actually pretty cool, and I actually prefer this method over single-family homes. There's a lot higher risk in a single-family home market than there is in a multiplex market. So let's go back to that multiplex. And let's say in a utopian society, you decide that you can buy a fourplex, which is what I would highly recommend for you to do. So we have 4 units, right? And here's the cool deal. You'll have to go to your county and learn what FHA limits are for your county. So in every single area, you do have certain loan limits. So FHA might be a lot lower in some areas compared to other areas where it might be higher. So in this first area, let's say you buy a fourplex, and we're not going to give numbers because the numbers aren't really going to matter to you in your particular location. But let's say you move into this first unit, but you rent out these 3 units. Well, here's the cool deal. These 3 units are going to pay for your first unit, the one that you're living in. So ultimately, when all is said and done, these 3 units here are paying for your mortgage. So ultimately, at the end of the day, they're either paying for the full mortgage that you owe or a large chunk of it, which ultimately means cash money in your pocket. But what if I told you 1 year later on the mark, okay, you can do the same thing, do that for 3.5% FHA. And let me just tell you this, if you buy a 5-plex or higher, you cannot do it at 3.5% FHA. In fact, if you ever buy an investment property that you're not doing house hacking, you're typically going to have to do it between 20 and 50% down. But in this scenario, you can do it 3.5%. But you can do the same thing with the multiplex, where you can go and buy 1 year later to the day a second multiplex, move in this first unit and rent out these 3 units, and have that guy or those people pay yours. And guess what? You can do it again for 3.5% FHA. And yes, every year on the year, you can do this over and over and over and over. And obviously, if we go back to the very first unit, once you move over here to this unit, then you're going to then get a renter for these units as well. And then the next year, the 3rd year, you're going to move out to this unit over here, and you're going to get a renter, and so forth and so forth and so forth and so on. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some numbers here. Obviously, this is never a guarantee, okay? But in a fourplex situation, it's very, very possible that you're going to break in your very first, okay, your very first rental property between $500 and $1,000 profit. Here's another word, or residual income per month in your very first unit. Okay? Now, one of the other things I'd also highly recommend for you to do is to make sure that you find a good property management company. And typically a property management company is going to take 10% of the monthly rental for the particular property. So if your entire monthly rent for one particular multiplex is, say, $2,000, they're going to take a 200% fee for that perspective so that they're able to pay themselves to find your renter, to do the small repairs, all that kind of stuff like that. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of positives, more positives to the multiplex than there is to the single family homes. Let me just throw a couple other thought processes as far as that's concerned as well. In a single family home compared to a multiplex, you probably already understand this, but let's just go through it anyway. If I have a renter leave for whatever reason, I'm responsible for the mortgage of that until I find another renter. In this situation, obviously if this renter leaves in the multiplex, these other three people can offset the cost of that renter until we fill that in, okay? So, yeah, another positive reason to have a multiplex. Yes, multiplexes are going to be a little bit more expensive, but if you work at the system right, you should be able to hopefully jump into one of these as well and help your situation out with that. Obviously here, when you're doing this every year on the year, then you're going to start getting properties. Eventually, you're going to get enough properties that you're going to be able to go buy yourself an outright investment property at that 20 to 50% down. And if you want to keep getting things bigger and bigger, then you can go for 5-plex or higher and start doing major investments in that world of things. So I'll throw that out there to you guys. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it was informative. And this is good stuff for you guys to learn how to accomplish with yourselves and your investment property. So think outside the box. Understand liabilities and assets. Understand that your house is a liability as long as it's taking money out of your pocket. But if you can learn how to do this, you can do it right away. It can become an asset right away. And guess what? That is money in your pocket, which is a very, very good thing. Hopefully that was helpful today. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll look forward to doing some more of these type of things with other type of businesses in the near future.